Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into NGC versus PCGS for coin grading today. You wanted to know more, so we found a cool YouTube video by T the Silver Stacker. He actually put both of these grading services to the test.
Yeah, and he used 1983 Mexican Libertad silver coins for his experiment, which is interesting because they weren't handled as carefully back then as modern coins are, so their condition can vary a lot more.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not just a stack of perfect coins. It makes it a real challenge for the grading services. It reminds me of back in the day before third-party grading even existed.
Right.
You had to really know what you're looking at to figure out what a coin was worth.
Exactly, and that's why professional grading was such a game changer.
Yeah.
NGC and PCGS, they brought standardization to the market.
Totally. So, okay, back to the experiment. He sent 5 coins to NGC and 5 to PCGS.
Yep, and the results are pretty interesting. The NGC grades, they ranged from MS65 to just 1 MS66.
Okay.
And for anyone who's not familiar, MS stands for mint state. And the number goes up to 70, with 70 being a perfect coin. Gotcha, so those are decent grades.
But
PCGS had some surprises.
yeah, for sure. They had 1 MS65, 2 MS67s, and then 2 that came back as MS68.
Yeah, that's a pretty big difference for coins from the same roll. What do you think about that?
Well, even though it's a small sample size, it could mean that PCGS is a little more lenient than NGC when it comes to grading, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it is something collectors should know.
So is this difference just like a matter of opinion, or is there something more to it?
Well, there are a couple of things that might explain it. One is that CAC grading came about, that Certified Acceptance Corporation. They look for really high-quality coins within their assigned grade.
Okay, kind of like getting an A+ instead of just an A.
Yeah, exactly.
So how does CAC play into this whole NGC versus PCGS thing?
It seems like NGC started being stricter with their grading when CAC started getting popular. Like they wanted to make sure their top-graded coins were really top tier, whereas PCGS, they've mostly stuck with their original grading style.
Interesting. So it's like two different approaches to grading. And some collectors want the strictest grading possible, while others want a chance at a higher grade.
Yeah, and neither one is wrong.
Yeah.
It depends what you're looking for as a collector.
And another thing the video mentioned was that PCGS was way faster.
Oh, yeah.
He got his coins back a whole month sooner than the ones he sent to NGC.
That's a big deal, especially if you're buying and selling coins often. You can get your coins back and sell them faster.
Time is money, right? And on top of that, PCGS has those true view images.
Yes.
I love those.
Those are great for coins graded with their gold shield. They're these super high resolution images.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can zoom in and see every little detail.
It's perfect for people who, really love looking at the details on their coins.
Absolutely. And if you want to go even further, PCGS has something called pedigrees.
Pedigrees. What's that?
You can have your name or a collection name printed on the grading label.
Oh, wow.
It adds a whole other level of history and collectability to the coin.
That's really cool. It's like a personalized touch.
Exactly. But there are usually minimum quantity requirements for pedigrees. You can't just do it for one coin.
Right. It has to be exclusive to be valuable.
Exactly, like a limited edition versus a mass-produced item.
Okay, so we've got potential differences in grading turnaround times. And then cool features like true view and pedigrees. Choosing between NGC and PCGS is starting to sound like choosing between two delicious desserts.
It kind of is.
But instead of, sweetness or richness, we're talking about accuracy and speed and all those extra features that can add value to a coin.
Exactly, and just like some people are happy with a simple slice of pie, some collectors are fine with a basic grading service, as long as it gives an accurate assessment.
So how do you figure out which service is right for you?
Well, you got to do your research. Look into both NGC and PCGS. Read about their history, check out their websites, see what other collectors are saying.
Yeah, like reading reviews before you choose a restaurant.
Exactly. You want to know what you're getting into.
And speaking of that, you mentioned that NGC and PCGS have different strengths. It's not about one being better than the other.
Right. You might find that NGC is really good at grading ancient coins, while PCGS is known for modern American coins.
It's like choosing a specialist doctor.
Exactly.
You wouldn't go to a cardiologist for a broken bone.
That's a great analogy. And it's great that there are multiple reputable grading services out there. Collectors have options.
So what about that time difference we talked about? How do you weigh the speed of PCGS against NGC's strictness?
Well, it all depends on your collecting goals. If you're buying and selling a lot, that month-long difference in turnaround time can be huge.
Yeah, you can turn over your inventory so much faster.
Exactly. But if you're holding onto your coins for a long time, speed might not be as important. You might prefer NGC's strictness.
It's like choosing between fast food and a fancy restaurant.
I like that.
They both have their pros and cons.
And speaking of pros and cons, we haven't even talked about cost.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Grading fees can be different between the two services, and they can change depending on the coin you're submitting.
So you have to do your research and figure out what makes sense financially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about understanding the costs and benefits.
So it sounds like we're telling our listeners to really think about their goals and what's important to them when deciding between NGC and PCGS.
Yeah, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
And sometimes you might even want to use both services.
That's a great point.
Maybe you send your rarest coins to NGC for that extra level of scrutiny, but your more common coins to PCGS to get them back quicker.
Exactly. Be strategic.
And hey, if you're feeling adventurous, why not try that experiment yourself? Send identical coins to both services and see what happens.
That's a great idea. You can even time it and compare the grades you get.
It would be interesting to see if you get similar results to the video we talked about.
Yeah, and you might even find that you prefer one service over the other after trying both.
Exactly. So the big takeaway here is that there's no single best grading service. You got to do your research and make an informed decision.
Absolutely.
And before we wrap up, I want to go back to CAC grading for a minute.
Sure.
We talked about it briefly, but I think it deserves a little more attention.
Yeah, CAC's a big deal in the coin world.
So for those who missed it, what is CAC all about?
Well, CAC stands for Certified Acceptance Corporation, and they basically double-check coins that have already been graded by NGC or PCGS. They're looking for coins that are truly exceptional for their grade.
Like a panel of experts who are really picky.
Exactly.
And how does that affect a coin's value?
Well, a coin that gets a CAC sticker is usually worth more. It shows buyers that the coin is high quality.
So it's like a seal of approval that can boost a coin's value.
Exactly, and some collectors specifically look for CAC-approved coins.
Makes sense. They want the best of best.
Right. And it's important to remember that CAC doesn't sticker every coin. They'll reject coins that don't meet their standards, even if those coins have already been graded by NGC or PCGS.
So your coin could be graded MS65 by PCGS, but still get rejected by CAC.
Exactly. CAC has high standards.
So what's the main thing for our listeners to remember about CAC?
I'd say be aware of CAC and what it means. If you're buying high-quality coins, look for ones with CAC stickers. And if you're sending coins to be graded, keep CAC in mind. It could add value to your coins.
Awesome advice. All right, so as we wrap up this deep dive, I think we've covered a lot today. NGC, PCGS, CAC grading. It's a lot to think about.
It is. But the important thing to remember is there's no one right answer when it comes to choosing a grading service.
Yeah, it's like, we've shown you two different cities with their own unique things to offer. Now you have to decide which one you want to live in.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And just like choosing a city, you have to think about what's important to you.
So what are some of the key things to consider when deciding between NGC and PCGS?
Well, first, ask yourself what kind of collector you are. Are you buying and selling a lot? Looking for quick turnaround times and maybe higher grades? If so, PCGS might be the way to go.
But if you're more about holding onto your coins for the long haul, and you want that strict grading, NGC might be better.
Right. And don't forget about the cost. Grading fees can make a difference.
True. And then you have those extra features with PCGS like true view images and pedigrees.
Yeah, those are cool if you're into the visual details and history of your coins.
So it really comes down to what matters most to you as a collector.
Exactly. And you can always use both services, if that makes sense for you.
Yeah, good point.
Mm.
All right, so I think the main takeaway here is do your research, figure out what's important to you, and choose the grading service that fits your needs.
Absolutely.
And most importantly, have fun collecting.
Couldn't agree more.
That's all for today's deep dive. Thanks for listening.
See you next time.